All right, thanks for tuning in to this week's edition of the Brett and Matt Show. As always, he's Brett, I'm Matt, and this week is our NBA 2015 draft preview. We're actually doing a mock draft of the lottery picks and one other pick, maybe a couple other picks, because the Bucks are just outside of the lottery, and we'd still like to pick for them. So I mean, obviously, before we get started here, I mean, there's a couple things. So first off, there's some trade rumors going around with the Knicks possibly trying to deal the number 4 pick with the Suns and maybe getting Eric Bledsoe in their 13th pick. There's LA possibly trading to try and get DeMarcus Cousins. So all of this is happening before, obviously, the draft. So we're just doing our best to predict what will happen if everything were to stay the way it was.
Yes, and did we say that the Knicks are apparently looking to hopefully take Frank Kaminsky? Maybe not at 4, but I guess the rumor was that they're looking to trade for, Bledsoe, and then the 13th pick. So to drop down to 4 or 13, take up Bledsoe, and then also give up the 4th pick for the Suns and whoever the Suns are feeling interested in, obviously then. But none of those deals can actually be finalized till after the draft because the NBA has got that rule where you can't trade your picks until after you've made them, I think.
Correct. So with that said, let's get started. So with the first pick in the draft, the Minnesota Timberwolves are on the clock, and Brett, I am just gonna let you end the suspense of who they're gonna take. Who are you thinking?
I have them going with Karl Anthony Towns.
What a shocker!
Yeah, for the longest time, Jahlil Okafor is probably considered the number 1 pick through most of the season, at least to the common public and everything else. But I think Karl Anthony Towns brings a little bit more, obviously defensively, better rim protector than Okafor. He's a better shooter from the mid range and can step out even farther than that. Reportedly, even has decent range up to the 3-point line. Whereas Okafor is more of a back to the basket kind of old school, post up guy. I think Okafor could be in a couple years, maybe 20-point, 10 rebound type of guy. So his stats are going to look good, but at the same time, that's not to say he's not good. But at the same time, I think Karl Anthony Towns will affect the game a little bit more in other areas.
Yeah, and boy, I hate to just agree right off the bat because I was told by people that watch our show that we agree too much, so I wanted to disagree. But I tell you what, I read a report and I was thinking it anyways. But the report is that Minnesota has already told Anthony Towns he will be the first overall pick. That's also who I have, as much as I'd like to disagree. Ultimately, you hit on the points. He can space the floor. He's already really good defensively, a good rim protector, and I mean his true low post game isn't as good as Okafor's, but there's no reason to think it won't be better. And I mean he's got stuff that Okafor doesn't, in that he is probably the most athletic center I think in this draft, or at least one of the two. The other one being Willie. His teammate, yeah, Cully Stein. But so I have Minnesota going with Karl Anthony Towns as well. And pretty much when you think about what they have, I mean, pretty much he does everything Pekovic doesn't do, and he protects the rim just like Pekovic does. So
Right.
Should be a good fit. And Minnesota, they got some building there. They could be an exciting team, in a few years or a couple years here. But moving on to the number 2 pick is the Los Angeles Lakers. I guess I will go.
I bet we are going to agree here too. Sorry, the things we agree too much. But.
As tempting as it would be to give them D'Angelo Russell, who I am really tempted to, stick him there. I kind of am stuck in this old school philosophy that when you have the opportunity to draft the big guy, especially one as talented as Okafor, you really should. And Brett said it earlier. I mean, probably for 90% of the season, or whatever part of the season, like he was projected to be the number 1 pick, and now he ends up sliding into number 2. I think if you're LA, you draft Okafor, and now you try to address your backcourt probably through free agency, but your front court now is 2 young big men. One last year from Kentucky. Boy, why can't I think of his name? You know what I'm talking about? Julius Randle, that's it. So you got Randle and Okafor as your future front court, and an aging Kobe, and maybe you had a piece in free agency and you try to make a run at something. But that's
like an aging Dwayne Wade.
Like an aging Dwayne Wade.
Might just be old all over the backcourt. Yeah, I agree that they'll probably take Okafor. That's been at least the rumors that they'll take whoever Minnesota doesn't take. Which obviously in our draft was Okafor. I don't know how well he fits necessarily with Randall, because they're both kind of low post. I think they're going to eat up a lot of the same space, which might be kind of interesting. Neither one of them is great defensively either. It doesn't mean that they can't grow or get better defensively. Just right now, if you're going to play them together, you're definitely going to have a lot of growing pains inside defensively. And they'll be in each other's way on offense unless, they start developing at least some sort of mid-range game. Which, based on Okafor's free throw shooting, probably isn't going to be something that happens anytime soon. Honestly, think that a guy like D'Angelo Russell probably would fit better there, because he's a guy that can shoot the 3, space the floor. He can run the point, but he can also play off. He's kind of like a nice combo guard. I want to say like a James Harden type. But yeah, everything that I've read and seen is that they'll probably go with Okafor if he's the one that's there.
Yeah, I mean, even if not just a little bit longer on LA, I mean, even if – okay, Brett, so if you're LA and you have both – what if you have them both graded out equally? Who do you go with then? Do you still go with the big man?
If they have D'Angelo Russell.
That's my feeling. Like, I think Russell – I don't know. I would have a hard time grading one of those 2 higher than the other, but ultimately that's kind of what I was hinting at was, well, I guess I'm going to go with the big guy.
Well – I think, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be true. Obviously, it's like the first time that this has really happened. I mean, I guess recently there have been some other teams that have sort of played small ball, great motion offense type. With like the Spurs and even Miami, what they were able to do was say LeBron at center and power forward for a lot of their time, depending on whether or not Chris Bosh was out there. But you have it seems to be a smaller, faster league now than it has been. So I don't know if I want too many big guys on the roster, if that's even possible. I know that sounds kind of weird because, 5+ years ago, you're thinking you got to have a big guy to win a title. Now it's kind of like, well, just move the ball. And when you have good guys that get inside, allow them to do that. But you don't need to have, like Twin Tower type, Tim Duncan and Dave Robinson types together anymore.
That's fair. It just seems like every year they're just picking in the top 4. So, Brett, who do you have them taking?
Yeah, I don't know what the Sixers will do. I don't think anybody really does because I think they draft a little crazy, kind of wonky draft style. But they've drafted guys in the past like Embiid and Saric that aren't even on the team. Well, Saric's not. Embiid hasn't played and probably won't play for a long time this year. Missed a year like Noel did, and then they all 3 kind of overlap positions sort of. They're all 3 front court players. So it seems like they try to acquire assets, but they haven't really done anything with those assets other than trade them for assets. They just haven't won any games. So I'm trying to figure out when they're actually just going to go for it and try to start winning. I say at least start building now. I'm going to go with D'Angelo Russell, who, as I said, is like a Harden type. Definitely going to bring some scoring. Not necessarily the greatest defender, but with all the athletes that they do have in the front court and behind him, I think that's going to help him out a little bit. We're going to keep agreeing.
We are. I also have the 76ers taking D'Angelo Russell. This is super unexciting. But I guarantee you, we do not have the same. We did not talk about this before. So if we have the same pick for the New York Knicks,
I think
I don't know what I'm gonna do.
you're going with a surprise pick, but at the same time, I don't think my pick's necessarily an obvious one either. We might. We'll see. We'll see. Do you have anything else to say, by the way, before we leave Philly?
Just that the 76ers, they've been taking. You mentioned a lot of front court players. I think they add someone to blossom their backcourt, and like I said, one of these years they had to decide, hey guys, let's finally start playing some basketball and winning some games. Maybe by adding a splash to their backcourt, they'll do it maybe sooner rather than later. But yeah, so. Guess we're going to our New York Knicks pick, and this has got to be where we differ. I will be one, not happy if you have the same guy I have, and two, really surprised because I thought I was making this pick kind of like out of the blue. So the Knicks are super. I know, and this doesn't make any. Phil Jackson's kind of a weird guy anyway, so he wants someone to specifically fit his triangle offense. But I don't know if this guy's not a very good offensive player anyways. In fact, he's really bad offensively. But he's a lockdown defender, and he can really guard pretty much any position. Why are you laughing? This better not be the same. I have the New York Knicks taking Willie Cauley-Stein.
Okay, we did go different. We did go different. There.
And the reason I did this because at this point in the draft, if you're New York, I mean – you could take one of the foreign guys. You could take Mundy, who could be the best point guard. But I guess I just look at it. You're so bad defensively. Adding a guy like this, I mean, you could play Stein at the center if you want, and you can have Carmelo Anthony play the 4. So I mean that would make up your front court. I think acquiring a guy like this is going to help your team right away. But I mean, I don't know, if you're in New York, you kind of got shafted with the 4th pick. So, I'm just trying to make the most of it.
Fair enough. With the Knicks, I had them actually going with Justice Winslow.
What?
Yeah, I had them going Justice Winslow. Outside of Melo, there's no one on this team that's really any good anyway. Really, and sometimes I question Melo. I mean, he's obviously very good, but. Winslow, he might have the opportunity or the potential to fit in the triangle. I mean, he shot, I think it was like 40% from 3 in college, this last year. Obviously, great athlete. He can drive to the rim. We all saw his ability against Wisconsin in the title game. Bastard. And then, but obviously his biggest calling card, I think, is his defense. He can guard, I think, the positions 1 through 3, and if a team's playing small ball, he could probably guard the 4 as well. So he brings a lot of value defensively, position versatility, and has potential to. I don't think his offensive game right now does, but he's at least shown the ability to shoot from the outside and get in the lane. So I think he could fit in the triangle. If they can move the ball around with him and Melo and whoever else they have on their team. Again, maybe Dwayne Wade. Who knows what they're gonna do? But that was my pick for them. Yeah, I was a little surprised I went with that, but that's where I ended up today while doing this at work, getting paid to do this.
So at number 5, the Orlando Magic are on the clock. Who do you got them taking, Brett?
Kristaps Porzingis.
Oh my gosh.
Did you agree?
Yeah, I did.
Well, and here's the thing. I feel like, obviously, I think the offense can struggle a little bit for Orlando. Outside shooting isn't great. They only have, I think, one guy Tobias Harris has shown it, and I think Vic's getting better, Victor Oladipo. But Porzingis brings something to the offense with a guy that's, 7 foot, can shoot from the outside. He'll help out on defense, having another longer, lankier athletic body.
Versatile. I mean, yeah. I'm with you. I mean, everything at pick number 5, and especially I keep hearing how Orlando likes him anyways and is hoping that he falls. I mean, just seems like a no-brainer. It seems like a good pick for them.
Sure. Definitely agree. Sacramento.
We probably have the same pick for number 6 too, I bet.
Probably.
Anyway, so the Kings last year, I really wanted them to take Elfrid Payton, and they didn't. Really, I think they should have addressed the point guard spot, and they didn't really. I mean, they brought in Nick Collison, I think, but come on. So I have the Kings taking their point guard of the future. I'm having them take Emmanuel Mundy out of China. The kid is, I don't know if you ever, the one question you got to have on him, and this is probably why he falls to number, somewhere around here anyways, is if he can consistently shoot. Not exactly the best jump shooter, but man, 6'5", really strong physical point guard, super athletic. I mean, he's going to be fun to watch for sure. If I'm the Kings, I'm ecstatic that I just got him at 6.
Yep. Also went with Moutier. So, but this is Vlade Divac's first draft. I think he's running this. Vlade
he is
running the show. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what he values, but based on what he said and what George Karl have said, to at least the media, now whether or not that's, smoke screen or whether they're being honest, they're valuing a playmaker, not necessarily shot maker, but playmaker means getting their own shots, but also helping create plays for everybody else on the team, point guard. Or ball handler, obviously, is what that means. And then interior defense. So I was also actually considering Cauley Stein for them at that spot, but that would probably also clog it up a little bit inside. But defensively, I think he would help out the team. He can literally guard every single position. Cauley Stein can. It's crazy.
Yeah, he's very good defensively.
And they also have, there's on the board still is Super Mario, Lasagna.
See, I just don't know how to. We just we sent a tweet about this, about how you place these foreign guys. He's a 6'8" shooting guard, right? Like
basically with good athleticism too.
Yeah, he's really athletic. It should be really good. But how many foreign guys have fallen flat in their face? And I'm just like, well,
right. Plus, we don't get to see them, so we don't have a lot of information. So we have to go out and kind of read things and what everyone else says. And they get like one private workout where every single team shows up, and it's kind of like he shot really well that day. Well, okay, maybe he had a good day. I mean, Sam Decker had a good day against Arizona. They do anything against too. You have good days. You have bad days. So yeah, it's difficult for us we just don't get to see them. So we just have to go off of what everyone else is saying, which for Porzingis and Lasagna, it's been super positive so far. Haven't really heard anything negative about them, and they'll be lottery picks from the sounds of it. But for us, it's kind of difficult to place them for sure.
Definitely. So at pick number 7, we have the Denver Nuggets. I know you go ahead, Brett. Go ahead.
Speaking of foreign guys, this is where I have Super Mario going.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they could really use help, obviously, all over the roster because it's a little unsettled for the future. I know they have some contracts that are due up. I don't know if it's this year or there's 1-year deals left on some pretty key players. But I think they focus on getting a wing player that's going to help out on the offensive end, which we just mentioned. He's a 3-point shooter, very good athlete. And if you ask him, he'll tell you he's the best player in the draft. So he's got some confidence to his game as well, which is always nice. Yeah. Doesn't necessarily mean I don't know how he fits into like a team scheme then, but he'll at least be able to help the Nuggets run. Run if they want to run, and if they're going to play half court, he's got the ability to play offensively in the half court. And the Nuggets were one of the worst teams in the league last year at shooting the 3. I think they were one of the 5 worst. So hey, analytics say making shots is good, and that's kind of what Lasagna can do. So that's why I have him taking him.
It's fair. I have the Denver Nuggets because I didn't have the New York Knicks taking Justice Winslow. I have the Nuggets taking him.
That's a good pick.
Also, it seems like lots of mock drafts to look at have him going to the Nuggets. That wasn't really all I based everything on, but he happened to be there, and everything seems to say the Nuggets really like him. And honestly, Mario was the other guy I was considering. I just went with Winslow because I thought, well, if I was them, I've probably seen more of Winslow than I have of the other guys, so I kind of know what I'm getting a little bit more. So I think I'm gonna go with a little bit safer pick at this point. But both players would be good. We both had the same idea going with the wing guy for Denver. So at 8 we have the Detroit Pistons,
which is as high as I've seen Sam Decker go in some mock drafts.
That is true. I've seen Sam Decker go here a lot. Unfortunately, he is not going this high. I have actually Mario. I don't want to pronounce that guy's name.
Zanya, I think.
Hizanya. I have him going to the Pistons. At this point in the draft, I feel like this is when teams might say, you know what, it's worth the risk to maybe gamble on a guy. Not that I'm saying he's a gamble from necessarily a talent standpoint, but I'm not sure how fast he will be able to translate to the NBA competition, and I feel like this is a good spot for him. He could end up being a superstar. I mean, who knows? But with the athletic gifts he has, he should be able to get on the pace or the Pistons and hopefully make an impact for him.
Nice. With the 8th pick, I actually gave the Pistons Stanley Johnson.
Another wing guy.
Yeah, I think they could probably use some outside shooting. So I was a little torn. I considered giving them Booker, Devin Booker from Duke. Or no, was it Duke? Yeah. So I had them considering that, but yeah, I went with Stanley Johnson. He's not quite the outside shooter that Booker is, but he does bring a little bit more versatility defensively, where he can guard, the 2 through the 4 spot, and still stretch the floor a little bit to kind of keep. Who are they going to keep? Is it Monroe or is it Drummond? Probably. I think they're keeping Drummond and going to let Monroe go.
I think, yeah, it's Drummond, I'm pretty sure.
So he'll kind of help stretch the floor a little bit, and he's got a good athletic ability. But his versatility won out here over a guy like Booker.
That's fair. So next up, we have the Charlotte Hornets. Who do you got them taking, Brett? Michael Jordan making another
great pick. Great pick, I'm sure, knowing history here. Charlotte's biggest need for me has been shooting. There's Kemba Walker, and then they have, obviously Kid Gilchrist can't shoot, and not really much else as far as, 3-point ability. So I'm actually giving them Devin Booker here. I've talked about him a little bit previously, but his biggest thing is him being a great shooter. He fits well at the 2 spot between Kemba and Kid Gilchrist.
Well, my only explanation for the pick I'm making is because Michael Jordan does some weird things, and you know what? Just nothing surprises me anymore when he's drafted. So I have the Charlotte Hornets taking Miles Turner.
Okay.
I just think from an athletic standpoint, Michael Jordan's going to be very impressed, and at this point in the draft, he's gonna decide to pull the trigger on a really athletic forward. But yeah, there's no question. At this point in the draft, I think he's really just trying to get probably for him the best player that he can at this point. And there was all sorts of talk before that Miles Turner was going to wind up being a much higher lottery pick. So for them to be able to get him here at 9, I think might be a nice little fit for the Charlotte Hornets.
Charlotte Hornets. Yeah. Who'd you
see? Reach.
Yeah, hey, that's what the draft is all about. Having fun. It'll be fun if that happens. So next up, we're at 10, right? We got the Miami Heat.
We are.
Who do you got?
You know what? At this point in the draft, the Miami Heat are selecting forward from Wisconsin, Sam Decker. I have Sam Decker going to the Miami Heat, and I think in what Miami likes to do, they like to run the floor some. Sam's gonna get the opportunity. He's more athletic than people give him credit for. I think he climbed up some draft boards because of his workouts and just how athletic he was at the combine. So that definitely helped. His biggest question is if he can consistently shoot, which is something I think he's going to continue to work hard to get better at. And obviously, he wants to continue to get better at defense as well. But at this point in the draft, I would not be shocked at all if Decker goes here, and I think it's a good fit for him in Miami.
Yeah, that would probably be a good fit. He's 6'9", 230. Brings some versatility. I don't know, honestly, what position he's supposed to play. I don't know if he's like a 3 or a 4 or even a 2 occasionally. I know he's played the 2 a little bit at Wisconsin when they went with what they call their Redwood lineup with one guard, and then they would take the other starting guard out and put in Douye. So the smallest guy would be the point, and then the next smallest guy would actually be Nigel Hayes at 6'7" or 6'8", which was kind of a fun lineup. For me, I actually went same position though, and I did go with Kelly Oubre. If you think about it, though, I think the starting five for Miami, assuming everyone's healthy, next year could be pretty good. You know, you got Dragic, and you're going to have maybe Wade, Whiteside, Dang, Bosch. That's like pretty decent, especially in the East. That's a team that should contend for some playoff spots if everyone can come back. So Kelly's going to be a guy that can score off the bench for them because that's like one of their biggest needs. I think they were like third worst team in the league with bench scoring. And it'll give him a chance to learn from a guy like Luol Deng, who's one of the better defenders, and just kind of goes about his business and is a nice, veteran presence for him to be behind coming off the bench.
That's fair. So at pick 11, we have you're in Naptown. So who do you got the Indiana Pacers taking?
Well, I asked people on Twitter. The only one person responded, and that was actually Cortland's dad. So thank you, Mr. Lee. He said, well, man, I wish I could pull up his quote. Either way, he said they need a new center, and the guy they have now is garbage, and he doesn't want him on the team, and he didn't even want to say his name. Obviously, that guy being Roy Hibbert, who is stuck in a corner. If you follow that Twitter page, you guys probably should. He's just stuck back there. So what I did is I gave them a new center. Maybe not the one that they probably want offensively, because there's some guys that are going to be much better offensive players, but I actually gave them Cauley Stein. I mean, he's still there at 11. I know you had him going 4. So in this draft, I mean, these guys got to be ecstatic about that. He's got the potential to fit, I think, on both sides of what the Pacers want, which is obviously great defense, but they also apparently want to run the court a little bit more. And if you're going to be in transition, I think Cauley Stein fits that better than necessarily like a half-court offensive set. Because he's got the athleticism to get up and down the court. We've talked about him earlier. He can defend literally every position. You don't have to worry about even switching on screens, with the pick and roll or whatever it's going to be. You're usually pretty confident with him guarding shooting guards and point guard type players. So while a guy like, Frank Kaminsky probably offers more offensively, I think with an upper tempo offense plus his defensive versatility actually gave them Stein.
That's fair. I can see that. That would be I think I could see it being a pretty good pick. I mean, I feel a little foolish now for having him go number 4, but I have the Pacers. I have the Pacers taking Cameron Payne, point guard, from Murray State. He has been shooting up draft boards lately, so I don't know if he's even going to be there when the Pacers pick, but I feel like they could use some point guard help, and at this point in the draft, I think that'd be a nice fit for them, and it should add another scoring option, hopefully, to a team that doesn't always have a lot of scoring.
Yeah, and I think George Hill's the point guard now, and he actually played pretty decent over the last part of last season. But at the same time, I think he's only got like 1 year left. I know he's another guy that a lot of fans have kind of been hard on. I think they've just been hard on everybody because they just didn't have a very good year. And Roy obviously himself has regressed lately, but I think it'd be kind of interesting because it would give them another ball handler, which if you remember, Tony Parker and Patty Mills played at the same time, I think, in the finals against the Heat, and that seemed to work out pretty well. So it's always nice to have another ball handler, and with them wanting to go up tempo, it could help with that as well. So you got 2 extra ball handlers that can push it up the floor.
Yeah, that makes sense. So at pick 12, we have the Utah Jazz, and I have the Jazz adding a versatile forward and Stanley Johnson. I know Brett had him going a little earlier. I think at this point of the draft, they're probably pretty happy that someone like this is around, and they get an athletic wing who can help them on offense and also play some defense for them. But another young piece to add to the Jazz, who I think are actually, they were definitely trending up towards the end of last season, I'm pretty sure. So I think this would be another good player to add to that mix.
Yeah, I have them going with Frank Kaminsky. Frank the Tank going to the Jazz. They could use some offensive help. I think having somebody from the 4/5 spot, depending on your lineup and where he's playing, to help stretch the floor, can open up the lane for there are a couple of guards that they have, in Exum and Burks, as well as Trey Burke. Who's more of kind of like a perimeter player. And Frank's gotten better every single year since he's been at Wisconsin. He's put in the work and the time and the effort. So even though he's a senior which a lot of times people just figure is like a maxed out guy, considering his improvement from last year, I think he still might even have room to grow before he even reaches his potential. He's also the only point or power forward / center in the last 10 years to have a positive, what they call a pure point rating, which is basically just kind of like assist to turnover ratio and what that kind of means. But, so he's actually a playmaker, not just for himself, but he does get other guys involved a lot. At least he did in college, where he was the focus of attention. So he's smart enough. He's got great vision, good passing. He can score down low, score outside. I think that's going to help them open up their offense.
That's fair. So at pick 13, we have the Phoenix Suns. Who do you have them taking?
For Phoenix, I think they wish Frank was there because he'd be like a Fry type. I think it was Chandler Fry was the guy they had that was kind of like their stretch interior player. But instead, since he's gone, I gave them Miles Turner. Excellent shot blocker. He does have the ability to stretch the defense a little bit, probably not as efficiently as Frank does. But that's something that he's still developing. And he can also, he's actually had medical issues, though, which apparently has been why he's falling, because some guys have actually had him going higher. But apparently the Phoenix Suns have one of the better medical staffs. So if, they've cleared him and given that the okay, I think they'll go ahead and select him since he's still available.
That's fair. You mentioned how Frank would be a good fit for the Phoenix Suns, which is actually where I have Frank Kaminsky going, is to the Suns. Guy you mentioned, they lost Fry, a guy who could stretch the floor good. Kaminsky can do that. He has proven he's very versatile and can, he's not the best rim protector, but he'll make the effort to definitely play defense. And he's a really good, he's got some really nice post moves, and he's got 3-point range, which is definitely comes in nice when you're that size. So, I think Phoenix lucks out and they're able to get Frank Kaminsky.
Right, if they're not trading up to number 4, and then this will be, the New York Knicks taking Frank Kaminsky or something.
That's true.
Like that. All right, last pick, Matt. Well, last pick of the lottery.
Last pick of the lottery. City. So I have Oklahoma City taking. This is kind of an interesting pick, but I have them taking a guy by the name of Devin Booker. I think they could, at this point. I mean, I picked 14 here. I mean, they could use the offensive power that guy brings. It's weird saying that when you have Westbrook and Durant. So, but I mean, even if he comes off the bench, it should add some scoring punch. So at this point, I just think he's a little too good to pass up. So that's why I have Oklahoma City taking.
Okay. I gave them, since he's still there, Cameron Payne. I did consider more of like a wing type player like Sam Decker, who I still actually have available. But I ended up going with Payne because he's somebody that can spell Westbrook. Probably not this year. He's going to have a year, I think, to develop and learn the offense a little bit because they still have DJ Augustine. So he won't be necessarily called on to be that backup guy right away. But I think it also opens up the potential for him to play with Westbrook if they want to move Westbrook off the ball to kind of relieve some of the duties off him so he's not having to carry it a lot. I mean, obviously with Kevin Durant back, he won't do as much probably next year as he did this year, but that's mostly been their offense for the last couple of years is just, hey, KD and Westbrook, go do your thing. Hopefully you guys can score, 30 points each and we can win a game. So I think kind of helping ease the burden on Westbrook will help them be a better overall team. He's not great around the rim, but he still works well in the pick and roll game because of his passing as well as his mid-range game. So I went with Cameron Payne.
That's fair. So there's only 2 picks that separate for the Milwaukee Bucks draft at pick 17. So I'm just gonna say that the other names. I'll just say who I have Atlanta and Boston taking, and then we'll just skip down to Milwaukee. So hopefully that doesn't spoil anything. But I did have the the Hawks taking Bobby Portis, forward out of Arkansas. And then I had Boston taking Trey Lyles out of Kentucky. So that's who I have. So the Bucks are in prime shape to take who I want.
Did you not have him going earlier? I had the guy you drafted already, right? That you want.
I'll just say who I'm gonna. I hope the Milwaukee Bucks. What?
I was gonna say. By the way, with the picks there at 15 and 16, before we get to Milwaukee, obviously you mentioned two names, Portis and who is it? Lyles.
Lyles. Yep.
I think R.J. Hunter's a guy that could sneak it up to the top half. He's a guy out of I think it was Georgia State shooting guard. If somebody needs like a shooter, he could be up there as well. Just another name to kind of include before we get to the Bucks pick. And I actually kept this guy off the board just for the Bucks because it's who I want them to take. So your turn. You go first.
All right. So the Milwaukee Bucks are on the clock, and they are taking Kelly Oubre, forward at Kansas. Just the guy out of everyone who's left, he's got a super long wingspan. He fits into an already really long and athletic team that already was really good defensively. By getting Oubre, who already plays good defense, like they're just gonna get another guy they can throw in. Hopefully, the one thing you gotta wonder about Oubre, he wasn't super consistent offensively at all. The athleticism's there though, and if you watched any Milwaukee Bucks basketball games, they run the court like crazy. Between the Greek Freak and getting Jabari Parker back, I mean, if they were able to add a guy like Oubre into the mix, I would be so happy.
See, now we went again, same position. I think you and I actually just switched our players here because I'm going Decker as saving the franchise, keeping him in Wisconsin. But he's also obviously a really long guy, 6'9", 230. I think he's actually a really good comparison I read for him is Jeff Green, who was with the Celtics. Now he's
in Memphis.
He's in Memphis. That's right. Yeah, he's in Memphis now. Where there's nights where if you ever read a message board for Wisconsin, it was where the hell is Sam Decker tonight? What is he doing? And then he'll have like a 5-10 minute stretch where you're like, God damn, that's the Sam Decker I like. He should do this all the time. And I think a lot of people kind of feel the same way about Jeff Green, where offensively, he'll just go out and do some things and just kind of like burst on the scene, make everyone really happy, and then kind of shy back away a little bit. But you mentioned it, length, 6'9". He's got like a 7 foot. I think his wingspan's almost the same as Frank. So Frank is kind of a short wingspan guy. But position versatility 2 through 4, which basically means that with him, Giannis, and Jabari, you have a bunch of guys that, if they need to switch defensively, because like in a hustle spot and they can't get on their original guy, I think they're kind of all interchangeable a little bit. Sam's probably not necessarily the outside shooter that I would hope Milwaukee would get, because God, watching some of those guys shoot threes is painful outside of like, Mayo and Middleton, I guess. But, I think he's a little hometown hero. If you ever had trouble selling tickets, I think this would help out a lot.
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset at all if we got Sam Decker where we're drafting. I think that would be. I think that, in fact, you know what? If it was between Decker and Oubre, I think I'd rather have Decker, just because hometown stuff. But
did you have Sam? You had Sam going earlier, though, right?
I did. Yeah, he's off the board. I had him going up at 10 to Miami, so not much of a chance there. And
yeah, so I did. I had Oubre going to 10 to Miami, I believe. So we just flip-flopped our guys.
But cool. That wraps up the draft. I mean, any closing thoughts?
No, I just want to say if anyone watches this and they want to give us their idea on who they want their team to draft, or if you want to criticize some of our picks, hey, that's cool too. Just mention them in the comments. We'll have this, this is automatically on YouTube and on our Facebook page, Twitter. Just let us know what you think, and we'll be glad to, have some conversation with you.
Sounds good, yeah. And then next week we'll hopefully have some recap, obviously, of the draft to go over, and probably any other odds and then sports news. So
sounds good.
Yeah, until next week.